So here we are. Welcome, everybody, to Mumford and Other Observations. We are Bridget Gamboni, Elizabeth Russell, T.S. Russell, and Claire Fletcher joining you today for the episode on, drumroll please, Timshel.
Hey-o.
It's a song by Mumford and Sons. You may have heard of them, and we're going to be talking about it, and we're going to be talking about a lot about this book, East of Eden, which we brought up on our last episode, but we'll be going more in depth into it today. Super excited about that. A lot of connections between this book and this song. So without further much ado, let's dive into things. And Bridget, you want to read off the lyrics for us?
Yes, I would love to. Cold is the water, it freezes your already cold mind. Already cold, cold mind. And death is at your doorstep, and it will steal your innocence, but it will not steal your substance. But you are not alone in this. You are not alone in this. As brothers we will stand and will hold your hand. You are the mother of your baby child, the one to whom you gave life. And you have your choices. These are what make man great, his ladder to the stars. But you are not alone in this. You are not alone in this. As brothers we will stand and will hold your hand. But I will tell you the night and whisper, lose your sight. But I can't move the mountains for you.
And there you have it, folks. There's the lyrics for Timshel by Mumford and Sons. It's a great song. It's a very slow, quiet song. Of course, it gets a little bit loud at the end, but not as much as some of their other songs that start off slow and then get loud. This one's pretty quiet most of the time. It's really nice. It's kind of like a lullaby. Next, what we'll do is the No Fear Mumford prose translation of the lyrics. And so, because the lyrics aren't that long, this is not going to be that long either. So, the lyrics, more or less in plain English, go like this. Your mind is numb and growing number. You're in danger of death, but even death can't harm your soul. We, your brothers, will help you through this. Remember that we're not the victims of fate. We have the power to make our own decisions, to choose to be great and virtuous. Your child has that power as well. We, your brothers, will help you through this. I will stand up to the darkness for you, but I can only do so much. I can't move mountains for you. So that is what is happening in this song on a literal level. It's the speaker or speakers are brothers talking to their sister. I don't know that it like directly correlates to characters from East of Eden, but there are definitely a lot of themes that correlate well with that book. A lot of themes in both this song and that book that correspond to each other. So, what's the deal with East of Eden then? What is this book that Tim keeps talking about and won't shut up about? Well, it's written by John Steinbeck, who is most well known for writing The Grapes of Wrath and Of Mice and Men. But in my opinion, East of Eden is his best novel. He wrote it late in his life. It's pretty long. It's very sprawling, covers a lot of different characters and long span of time, and covers the whole United States coast to coast. And it's super good. So Steinbeck combines his masterful prose with gripping character descriptions, profound insights into human nature, and a multi-generational story of epic proportions.
Oh.
Yeah, drawing inspiration from the stories of Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, and Jacob and Esau, the story is in some ways a modern retelling of the book of Genesis, taking place during the first half of the 20th century. It tells the story of Adam Trask, who moves from his family home in Connecticut to California, where his wife abandons him and he is left with his two twin sons. With the help of his servant Lee, he raises the two boys, who struggle not to fall into the stereotype of Cain and Abel, largely because of Adam's own strained relationship with his brother, who once tried to kill him. Meanwhile, their mother becomes the head of a local brothel, but the young boys have no idea if she's even still alive. As the boys grow older and one begins a relationship with a young woman, they struggle to overcome the darker parts of their souls, especially the negative traits they've inherited from both of their parents. So, a lot going on in this book. That's like a super bird's eye view of what happens in the novel, because it covers, like I said, it covers a lot of ground. But I think that synopsis covers like the majority of what this song deals with anyway. So we'll go ahead and jump into the line-by-line analysis of the lyrics, unless anybody has any observations so far. This is Mumford and Other Observations as well, so any other observations?
I will just say I have not liked Steinbeck until I read East of Eden. I read The Red Pony or something like that.
Yeah, that's one of his.
Yeah.
You read of Mice and Men too, right?
And Mice and Men.
Yeah.
Which
I
is
read that
okay,
one.
but it's so depressing.
It's so depressing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have 2 special needs siblings. I get really cranky about some of the moments in that book.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
besides the point. No
Yeah.
spoilers. Not for me.
Yeah, so I just didn't really enjoy, I'll say that. I didn't enjoy Steinbeck until I read East of Eden. And now, even though it is sad and everything, there's a great chapter where he's like, as you can tell, reader, we have now reached the 19th or the 20th century. And he goes, there's just a whole chapter where he talks about the 20th century and what people expected it to be, what it actually was, what people's expectations made it into, and how they idolize the past or idolize the future or criminalize the past or criminalize the future, all these things. It was really in depth and cool. And I was like, somebody needs to do this for the 21st century. It was really, I liked it. So I think he reached a point where he was very insightful.
Mm-hmm.
When did he write it?
53, I think.
1953?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was the end of his life,
It's a good
right?
time to reflect.
Yeah.
Before
Close to
the
end of his
details.
life, yeah.
Before the details are forgotten from the early part of the century, but
Right.
after it's far enough away that it's 2020 vision, of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Bridget?
I mean, nothing other than what I might have said last time about Little Lion Man, about how it is sounding like Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, there's definitely, Steinbeck was very obviously drawing from Genesis for East of Eden. The characters themselves even talk about how they're like, oh, wow, Adam, your story is kind of like Adam in Genesis. So there's definitely that going on, and I think that itself sheds a lot of light on this album when you realize that it has connections to the book of Genesis as well. We really got into that on the Little Lion Man episode, which I recommend everybody watch if you haven't watched it yet before watching this episode, because we'll be building off of that.
also makes me think of is it the Oh Hellos who have the album
Yes.
Through the Deep Dark
Through the
Valley.
Deep Dark Valley. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Which
need
is
to.
a literal Genesis story. But I feel like Mumford really he draws on those themes.
Yeah. I'm obsessed with Genesis. I can't
Yeah.
wait. I want to go in line by line. I'll jump in.
All
on
right,
that part.
let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, so first line is, cold is the water, it freezes your already cold mind. Already cold, cold mind. So we have the word cold 4 times, so I think he's really trying to emphasize that it's cold.
Chilly.
Um,
Getting a frozen tundra kind of feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think the word cold it symbolizes numbness here, right? That you feel dead inside. And something about this water, you finding yourself in deep water and it's cold. You were already feeling kind of dead inside. Now you feel like it's just sapping all of the life out of you. So you're in a really tough spot here. But also, let's not forget that in Scripture, and hence in Mumford and Sons, water always has baptismal connotations, right? So whether that's with Noah and the flood or with literal baptism, there's always that idea of being plunged into the water and then coming up reborn. I would highly suspect that there's some of that going on in this Mumford and Sons song also, that somehow, even though she's finding herself in this really terrible place, somehow it's going to work out for her redemption and her rebirth in one way or another.
What leads to that conclusion? What you said that she thaws, or what gives the hope?
The fact that water has baptismal connotations in Scripture, and hence in Mumford and Sons.
Yeah, the spirit moving over the water. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even just that. Certainly Genesis, in particular.
Exactly. Genesis is the key to all of this. Like Jar Jar Binks in The Phantom Menace, Genesis is... All right, forget I said that. We're going to move on. Just want to point out real quick that we talked, I think it was the last episode, about the word mind and the different times that it comes up on this album. So I think we'll save a more in-depth discussion of that for another song or another episode. But it is interesting to look at the different times that the word mind comes up and sort of look at the image, or how the image of mind develops over the course of the album, and the different connotations that are added to it and built up around it. And of course, that's all going to come to a head in the last song of the album, After the Storm, because as we've been pointing out in the podcast, every episode, After the Storm is like the pinnacle of this album, and everything reaches the climax there. The other thing before we leave this line here is that we are going to see water again in the next song, so just stay tuned for that with Thistle and Weeds.
You know, with the cold thing and the numbness, just looking at our like modern world and everything, and it's so interesting. I found myself at one point with my little brother Isaiah, and we were at he took me on a little date. He's adorable. I know. He's 16. He was a couple years younger at the time, but he had like gotten some birthday money, and he took me to Blue Bayou, which is like this water park, theme park thing down in Louisiana, and he was really proud of himself for like being the one to buy the tickets, and it was really cute. Oh my gosh, Salt, yeah, he's so cute. So we go, and we like, you know, we're determined to like ride the rides that no one wants to ride. And so we go to like this one that's just basically going in circles. It's kind of maybe an elliptical sort of thing. And the guy like we go up to, you know, he's like, you know, arms and legs in this area, you know, whatever. This is not Six Flags where like everybody's like, be safe and don't die, you know, before you go off. It's like the one where they put you in and they're like, don't, you know, keep your arms in and stuff, you know, and then you go. And so we're going in a circle and we're like making faces as we go by every time. But every time we go by, we're like, man, that guy looks so bored. You know, we should like entertain him. So we started making faces every time we like made a pass. And the guy is like, he's not on his phone because he's not allowed to be, you know, but he's like staring vacantly like through us every time we go by. We're like doing absurd things and like making the most ridiculous faces. And at the end, we get off, and he's like still looking very vaguely through us. And Isaiah and I just kept walking, and you know, we like made each other a promise. We're like, we will never be so existentially bored as this man was, this young teenager who's like running our ride. So depressing, so depressing. But there is something like, if you want a different part of scripture, like the indifference, right? It's the opposite of charity is not hatred. Actually, it's indifference. It's one of the, you know, one of the greatest sins against charity is indifference. And I think that that's just so apt to like this. Like, if you're cold, if you're dead inside, that also means you're apathetic. That you just don't care. You're jaded. Yeah.
Well, in Dante's Inferno, when they get to the very center of hell, right, the lowest pit, Satan's there, and he's frozen in ice, right?
Great image.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that too about the water. Like it's cold water, and cold water should wake you up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you respond differently to cold depending to the temperature of the water, depending on the state of your heart.
Right.
Right. If you're warm, you're going to thaw the water. If you need a wake up call, like it'll slap you awake. But like if you already have a cold heart, then it just is gonna add to that layer.
You're like paralyzed.
Yeah.
You're incapable of movement. Or being moved. You know?
Yeah.
So don't be cold inside.
We don't want that.
No. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Nobody.
So let's move on to the next couple lines. I'm excited about these ones because we're going to have some more Genesis here. So these lines are, and death is at your doorstep, and it will steal your innocence, but it will not steal your substance.
Yours.
So.
Best line.
Yes.
In case you're wondering whether human nature is utterly depraved as a result of the fall. No, it is not.
What is it JP2 says? That like you are not the sum of the worst things you've ever done.
So you are the sum of the Father's love for you.
Yeah.
Exactly. At the very center of you, there's something that nobody and nothing can ever take away.
Not even you.
Not even you, right? You had neither reason nor rhyme with which to take this soul that is so rightfully mine.
Yeah.
Mm.
And your soul you must keep totally free. Those are other songs on this album.
Yeah, no, I
Talk
did this
about
last
your
time.
soul and your substance.
I know I did this last time related to Taylor Swift's song, but this time it's even more apt to
All right.
Innocence.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Innocence by Taylor Swift. So,
Oh.
yes, the song is literally almost directly quoting JP2 in his line. I don't know if she did that on purpose or not, but that's basically what the message of the song is.
Two very different people trying to drive towards the same truth.
Yes, it's
right?
the universal
Turns out,
truth.
Truth might be objective. Shocking. I
Yeah.
know. Plot twist, folks.
So we already, in another episode, gave a logical demonstration demonstrating how the words soul and substance mean the same thing. So I won't go over that again here. So when it says it will not steal your substance, it means it will not steal your soul, right? Your soul is yours. The really interesting thing about this line is that it's very similar to a line from Genesis chapter 4, verse 7, when the Lord is talking to Cain before Cain decides to kill Abel. And the line goes like this, in this translation anyway. If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is lurking at your door. Its desire is for you, but you must master it. So sin is lurking at your door, right? Death is at your doorstep, and it will steal your innocence. I've read other translations that say something along the lines of sin is a demon lurking at your door. These terms, sin, death, a demon, they're all interchangeable here, right? There's something at the door of Cain's soul that wants to get inside there and steal his innocence. It also wants to steal his substance, but it can't do that. But it can steal his innocence.
Yeah, it's kind of like in the Odyssey with the sirens. One of my friends was teaching a class, and he was talking with his students about it, and he's like, so what do you think the sirens can do? Like, do they appeal only to the one man, or do they appeal to all, or something like that? And another song, I don't know if you're familiar with the Grey Havens.
Of course.
Oh, yes. That was good. All right, so in the Grey Havens song Sirens, they talk about the fact that they found a way with to take what's good and should be wanted into what is highest above all desires and love. So basically, like twisting things. So it's not that like the innocence that is lost isn't so much your nature, right? Like you are always going to desire the good, right? But now you're desiring a lesser good above a higher good, right? The desire for, I don't know, that 10th cookie over the desire of charity towards your little sister, or something to that effect. There's just two different goods in play, and you ought to choose the higher one, right? But we don't sometimes because we have disordered passions and desire things in the wrong order. But I think that's like, so even though we're always going to desire the good, and that won't ever change, which is comforting. At the same time, we still can do things out of order.
Mm-hmm. Right, but we have the choice whether or not to do them, right?
Exactly.
And that brings us to the word Timshel. So, if any of you have been wondering what the title of this song means, Timshel is a Hebrew word that means, as Steinbeck defines it, thou mayest. So, you can, right? And it's used here in Genesis chapter 4, verse 7, as I read earlier, where the Lord says, its desire is for you, but you must master it. That term, you must, that's Timshel. So you must, you may, you can, you have the ability, is what Timshel means. So Timshel is all about choice. So this song is all about choice. We'll get to that in the second verse a little bit more.
God is all about choice.
God is all about choice.
Cheers, freedom.
And surprise, surprise, East of Eden is all about choice. So, the word Timshel, the reason that we know so much about this word, or that I know so much about it anyway, is thanks to John Steinbeck in East of Eden. Because one of the characters gets very obsessed with this word. He goes on this long, epic journey to try to find out what it means. It's great. He says, the Hebrew word, the word Timshel, thou mayest, that gives a choice. It might be the most important word in the world. That says the way is open. That throws it right back on a man. For if thou mayest, it is also true that thou mayest not. Don't you see?
Oh my
So,
gosh.
Wait, which character is that?
this is Lee,
Okay.
the Chinese servant.
I don't know him yet.
You haven't gotten him yet?
No.
He's the best part of this book.
Oh my god.
Oh man, he's the coolest. He's so great. He goes on to say a little later, "Why, that makes a man great. That gives him stature for the gods. Stature with the gods. For in his weakness and his filth and his murder of his brother, he has still the great choice. He can choose his course and fight it through and win." Right?
Mm.
It will steal your innocence, but it will not steal your substance. Sin is lurking at your door. Its desire is for you, but you must master it. You can master it.
So interesting, because like okay, another literary reference, Lord of the Rings, can't help
Please,
myself.
please.
I'm just gonna sorry. So there's a
Just
moment.
break the ice for all of us.
Sorry, so Lord of the Rings. I just can't help it. There's a moment in the movie. So where which I love. I'm
That's
sorry.
not a literary reference. That's a film reference.
Deal.
Wow. Says
I'm
the guy who's doing a whole
relevant-
podcast around a music.
Okay, for the record, it's in both. I'm pretty sure it's also in the book, but I haven't read the book. Well, I've read it recently, but not recently enough to be absolutely sure.
Okay,
That's
all right.
Okay,
all right.
okay. There's a moment where, you know, when Aragorn is going to summon the dead kings who are in their ghostly form and whatnot, and
Yes.
it's like the way is shut, the dead keep it. And so like what you're saying about like the way is open, right, is like the way to freedom, right, that kind of thing. But like the dead keep the shut way, you know.
Mhm.
There's like that's just the contrast there. I think just comes to mind. I don't know.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the whole point is that Timshel is one of the most liberating words you could ever come across, right? Because it means Cain has the ability to choose whether or not he's going to kill his brother Abel. He wasn't destined to do it. It wasn't fate that drove him to it. In the end, he made the decision to do it, right? So he did not master the sin that was lurking at his door. It corrupted him. It stole his innocence. He killed his brother.
And there's the whole thing about like death shutting the door. That's Cain can only make that choice while he's on earth, right? Like while he's living, while he's been placed on this path, that's when he can make the choice.
Mm-hmm.
But once he's dead, the choice has been made. He will have chosen his path.
Right. So the whole reason that we're on this earth is to make those choices,
Right,
right?
it's
The
for
choices that are going to set us on the path.
Yeah.
Whether we're going to create heaven on earth in our own souls or hell on earth in our souls. Right?
Wow.
And
Yeah.
that will, it's the great divorce, I know.
Sorry. I didn't even go that direction yet. Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that word, the word Timshel shows up in East of Eden, like smack dab in the very center of the book. Like almost to the page, the exact middle of the book. And it's also like at the very end of the book. It's one of the very last lines that's said.
Do you think Mumford had like some kind of literary course in college that took him through East of Eden?
Mumford loves Steinbeck. Okay? There's no denying that. Between this song, Little Lion Man, and Dust Bowl Dance, like, definitely big Steinbeck fan.
Yeah,
Mumford
Did not
is.
know that.
Oh, yeah.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah.
All right.
So, okay, I think we gotta keep things moving here.
Yes.
We're gonna run out of time.
Oh
No, this is all good stuff. All good stuff.
man, isolation. Oh boy.
Okay, so you are not alone in this. You are not alone in this. As brothers, we will stand and will hold your hand. Lots of things here. First of all, lots of brothers in East of Eden. There's Adam and his brother Charles, who, like I said in the introduction, Charles tries to kill Adam early on in the book. And then Charles also might be the father of Adam, the actual father of Adam's children. There's
Awkward.
it's kind of awkward. I forget how evident it is in the book. Elizabeth is pretty sure about it.
I mean, I didn't know they were twins. Maybe one of them's fathered one and the other's fathered the other. Because that's how biology works.
That would be.
Do we know if they're
Interesting.
fraternal or
Right?
They're definitely fraternal because they look very different. One takes a lot after
I
Adam.
don't think that's biologically possible, though. I have
my
no
gosh.
idea.
I don't know.
identical?
We're not gonna. This is not a
Right,
biology
yeah.
lesson, but one of the twins really takes after Adam. The other twin really takes after Charles. So there's those brotherly relationships as well. But then there's also the Hamilton children, who we haven't even brought up. The Hamiltons. They're a key component of the East of Eden story. They're another family. They're an Irish family that lives in California near Adam and his family, and they're wonderful. They're the best. Desi Hamilton is my hero. I love her so very much. She has a very sad story, though. Anyway, most people in this book have pretty sad stories.
At least no more than
You're sitting here, you're just a spoiler.
Point is,
It'll be okay.
point is this image of brothers standing and holding their sister's hand really like conjures up the Hamilton children in my mind, right? That's very much something that they would do. Not so much the Trask family. They're a little more troubled. They're all troubled, but the Trasks more so.
They're all human.
They're all human. That's their mistake then. Then also there's that you are not alone in this, you are not alone in this, that reiteration of that line. It's so key because there are so many instances throughout this album of people being alone, people being lonely. So there's imagery of that in Winter Winds, Roll Away Your Stone, Little Lion Man, Thistle and Weeds, After the Storm. Is very much a theme of loneliness running throughout this album, and it's really interesting to see here that there's, togetherness happening. And that image of holding your hand, that's going to come back in several other songs as well. This song really adds a lot to those themes of hands holding alone and loneliness, brotherhood and sisterhood, those different themes running throughout the album. This song really sort of adds new perspective on all of those things.
Does he ever do like a No Man is an Island kind of thing? Where he kind of like rebuts the loneliness and the isolation?
Well, he does here.
Okay, well then let's do it. Let's do it.
Well, that, like, the part I just read, right?
Oh, that, yes.
You're not alone in this.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's always that promise of that you won't be alone. The album ends with, the album kind of ends in tragedy, but also ends with this idea that one day you will not have to suffer alone, and you will be comforted by the presence of someone else.
Yeah, because I don't think this is so much a rebuttal of it as it's almost like a contrast, because like you still get the feeling to a certain extent, because they still say in the end, I can't move mountains for you. Like
right.
you still know, like in the end, it is still just you. Man is an island to some extent.
Because at the end, it's your choice.
Right. Even if I will stand here and hold your hand, you're still alone in that decision.
Yeah, there's that tension between you being alone and other people supporting you.
And I think you see that in the Cave a lot too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Roll Away Your Stone also.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of worshiping Mary, let's talk about motherhood.
All right. I'm down.
Verse 2 of Timshel by Mumford and Sons. You may have heard of them. You are the mother of your baby child, the one to whom you gave life. So there's that theme of motherhood. We saw the word mother in the last song, Little Lion Man, right? Learn from your mother or spend your days biting your own neck, so don't make the same mistakes your mother did. I think we talked in the last episode about how Kathy in East of Eden, who is the mother of the twins, is just the worst person
It's pretty terrible.
ever. She's very, very bad.
Basically a drug.
And
really messed up.
yeah.
You start to wonder if her substance might not have been a little corrupt.
Maybe.
Anyway.
Definitely had her
Yeah,
innocence
good
stolen,
question.
that's for sure.
Yeah, understatement.
But yeah, her son Cal really struggles not to repeat her mistakes, and so there's that going on. But here we have the idea of motherhood in a much more positive light, right?
Yeah.
You're the mother of your baby child, the one to whom you gave life. So there's that mystery of womanhood that you literally created this other person inside of you and brought it forth into the world. And that's crazy.
It's such a happy thing to be inside of such a sad song. I feel like it's unexpected.
It is. But I think it ties in with these next lines, the rest of verse 2. He says, and you have your choices. These are what make man great, his ladder to the stars. So there's the implication then that because you have these choices, your child does also. Not only does man inherit sin from his parents, but he also inherits Timshel by being part of the human race. And so every mother's son has that power, that ability to choose the good or to choose the evil. We're not victims of fate. Oh, and I think it's just interesting here that he says these are what make man great. Not men, not mankind, but man. That, I don't know. I get excited when I see somebody use the word man in that archaic sense, like the traditional way of saying it, of referring to human nature as man. And
you're brave to say that in front of 3 women.
I am brave to say that in front of 3 women, but I trust that you all
Super duper excited to
understand
hear
well
you
enough
say
what,
it.
what I'm
You're
saying.
doing fine.
Yeah, we don't need to get into that too much. What I do really want to point out, though, is another passage from East of Eden. This is the same scene where Lee is talking about the word Timshel. He's talking about old Chinese men and the New Testament and Confucius. And then he says, but this, referring to the word Timshel, this is a ladder to climb to the stars.
Oh, there you go.
So that's just like a straight up quote, basically.
That Timshel is a ladder to the stars?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this, like you said earlier, this gives him stature with the gods, right? Man is a very important thing, maybe more important than a star. This is not theology. I have no bent toward gods, but I have a new love for that glittering instrument, the human soul. It is a lovely and unique thing in the universe. It is always attacked and never destroyed, because thou mayest. Always attacked and never destroyed, right? Loses its innocence, but not its substance, because you have the ability to choose, right? You can choose between good and evil. And so that's really the theme of this novel. We have so many wondrous and terrible things going on in this story. And people feel pushed and pulled by all these different, sins of their forefathers or sins of their mothers and all sorts of things like that. But at the end of the day, Timshel.
Yeah.
But you are not alone in this. You are not alone in this. As brothers, we will stand and will hold your hand. And then a little bit of a shift in the last 3 lines of the song. Music changes a little bit. It's that he says, but I will tell the night and whisper, lose your sight, but I can't move the mountains for you. So for one thing, here we have first person singular for the first time, whereas whenever the speaker used first person earlier, it was always plural.
Yeah.
As brothers, we will stand, right? We'll hold your hand. But now it's just one person speaking. I'm not entirely sure what the significance of that is, but that's definitely a shift that happened there. We'll have to dive more into that another time, I guess. But I will tell the night and whisper, lose your sight. So he's saying, assuming here that it's still one of the brothers talking to the sister, he's saying that I'll stand up to the darkness for you. I'll confront the night or the darkness. And we've seen on this album that the terms night and darkness are basically interchangeable. They're also more or less interchangeable with sin, death, demon, etc. And whisper, lose your sight. So,
what does that mean?
Well, we've talked about blindness quite a bit on the album. And I think what it's saying here, I don't know, this kind of confused me for a while, but I think what he's saying is that he'll address the night, the darkness, and tell that to lose its sight.
Okay.
So that the darkness itself will go blind.
He's not telling the sister to lose her sight.
No, I think he's telling it to the darkness, to the night.
Okay.
Night for some.
Yeah. And that's a reference to that line from Macbeth that we saw in Roll Away Your Stone, where he said, stars, hide your fires.
Hide even the little you can see.
Exactly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think this image of making the night lose its sight is an image of me protecting you from that darkness.
That makes sense.
The darkness won't be able to hurt you because it won't be able to see you.
Yeah.
You'll be invisible. So I can do that for you, but there's always a but, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't move the mountains for you, like we were saying earlier. You may, right? Timshel, thou mayest. You need to make these choices yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I can't make them for you. Your soul you must keep totally free. Even if I have, faith the size of a mustard seed to move mountains, I can't move the mountains that your faith is supposed to move. You have to do that yourself. You need to have that faith. I can't have faith for you.
Yeah.
It's your own choice because it's your own soul, because sin, death will not steal your substance. You have that substance and you have the ability to choose what to do with it. The soul that is so rightfully yours. Your soul you must keep totally free. And that's the end of the song.
Mm-hmm.
So, thoughts before we talk about what we've learned today?
I mean, I just keep thinking about St. Pope John Paul II's definition of freedom. Freedom is not to do whatever you want, but to know the good and to choose it. I think that was John Paul II. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
It's older than him, but
Yes, he probably
I'm
quoted
sure
somebody saying
I'm sure
that.
he talked about it too.
Probably Aquinas mentioned it somewhere.
Yes. And just the ability to do other than that which you do as being freedom, that ability. How that has to be so informed by faith, by knowing what is good, by knowing objectively what is good, and mustering up the courage to choose that, which is that ongoing struggle, that ongoing journey, that mountain that is, and to overcome, our own selves, to overcome our own selves in this struggle.
Right. Because I need freedom now.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know how to live my life as it's meant to be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that pride. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I keep getting this image, as the mountain, I think we have a tendency to inflate the mountain and the night as the same thing. To see the journey that we have to make as the same thing as the darkness that is making it a stumbling block. But the mountain, Christ ascends the mountain with Peter, James, and John for the transfiguration. That's not an evil place to be, right? It is in Golgotha, but it isn't at the transfiguration. So there's that juxtaposition of the mountain itself is not the evil thing. And my mentor is always giving me, Courtney Young, she's always giving me these images of what she's what summit are you at right now? What's the summit you're reaching now, and what's the next one that's up ahead of you? And but she'll also give me images of the Lord is carrying you. He has leveled the playing field. There are so many ways that you can move mountains. So literally, you could just move it. It could just disappear. You could also climb it, and that's fine. That's a way to move a mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And there, you can also go around it. You can go through it. There's so many ways, that we get so stuck in, I can't do this, because the darkness seems to just put an invisible barrier.
Right.
The mountain seems so large. I know, St. Faustina comes to mind. I think she describes in her diary at one point, that your sin is like a grain of sand next to the mountain of mercy that is God's, God's love. And of course, in the closing prayer for the Divine Mercy Chaplet, God's love is your divine will, which is love and mercy itself, right? That those three all go together. Which I don't know. The reason that I think it's just because the mountain can seem so large, because we think that's we're thinking that this mountain is how difficult our sin is, but in the end, that's a fraction of what His mercy is.
Right.
Because the mountain is the adventure, and the sin is the burden that is light and easy to bear as we ascend it.
Well, I think I would use the image of the sin is the thing you don't have to bear.
Yeah.
That the freedom is ultimately His yoke.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Dante in the Divine Comedy, right? At the very beginning of the Inferno, he tries to climb Mount Purgatory.
Yep.
But the three beasts stand in his way, right? And those are his three main vices. And so he's not able to climb that mountain. And what he ends up having to do is having to, go back down the mountain and then go through hell,
Right.
to the very center, to where Satan lives, before you can then climb out and then start the ascent of Mount Purgatory.
Which, full circle, taking it to Lord of the Rings,
Hey,
Mines of Moria, because they can't get over carriage
Get
drive.
over
Oh my
there,
gosh. My
Right.
goodness, I wonder if that was
Dante just
legitimately inspired by him. I'm
Tolkien
loving
just
this
stole
like
everything
living and
from
breathing
Dante.
the literature thing, the living and breathing thing. What's going on right now? It's just like how like there's a moment earlier where I'm like, let's do Kingfishers Catch Fire by Gerard Manley Hopkins too, and just talk about like free will in that way. You know, like man,
Yeah.
it's so interconnected. I think the whole idea of truth being one is so true.
That's
I
kind of
feel
the whole
that so
point.
much.
That's kind of the whole point of this podcast, because I noticed when I started getting into Mumford and Sons that they were referencing all these literary texts, and I was like, "What's the deal with that?" It's all connected somehow. I gotta unpack that, and so here we
And
are.
it makes you so excited to find the truth in all the different places, you know?
Yeah. It's like, oh, I recognize that. Like that's a familiar. It's like a friend that you're
Yeah.
stumbling upon in the middle of a story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of that truth, it's time to talk about what we've learned today, and sort of. Yeah.
Totally plagiarizing.
You got the VeggieTales reference.
Sorry.
So let's
No, we're plagiarizing, not you.
let's recap then and sort of look back at this song and see what is it that we've learned about human nature from this song, because we've gone on quite the, we've accumulated quite a collection of tidbits of insights about human nature from the other song on this album, right? Starting with Sigh No More, where it said that man is a giddy thing and that love will not betray you, dismay, or enslave you. It will set you free, be the person you were meant to be. Where are we now then on that journey? Where are we now? Do we ever think of you in the quiet in the crowd?
I think Timshel's what we learned.
I think so.
Not to jump straight to the
Crunch
line.
line.
You stole my big reveal.
All right.
So yeah, I mean that Timshel sums it up really well. It's that's what's at the center of this song, and this song is fairly close to the center of the album. It's song number 8, so there's 4 songs after it, 6 songs before it, so it's kind of in the middle there.
It's
But
the climax of the middle songs.
Yeah, well, we're coming off the climax of Little Lion Man. Definitely, I think in this song, the speaker's in a better place than he was in Little Lion Man, because in Little Lion Man he was really beating himself up. Yeah.
Yeah, this one just starts paralyzed and ends with them moving mountains. So,
We're not moving that.
well, I don't know.
Well, it's,
We
yeah,
know
but
that
it's,
I
you're
am
right,
not.
because he's describing her in both times. He's saying like you are frozen, and then by the end but you have the ability to move mountains.
You can,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a promise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it starts frozen and ends with a promise of what you can do, even if your heart is frozen, because you can't lose your substance.
Right.
There's always a way to come back.
At the end of the day, you can make the right
Honest.
choice.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
actually Father Ryan Adorjan said this recently that that it's possible. It's possible to live without sin, and he's like, I don't think you guys believe that. Like, it's possible. It's so possible, and you're well on your way.
If you study Mary, you study Joseph, the more you get to know them, the more you're like, it is possible. Like,
Yeah, they're normal.
I think we almost think like, you must have lived a joyless existence if you didn't have sin.
Oh my gosh. On the contrary, freedom. It is for freedom that he set us free.
Right. Well, it's like Father Tom at the Byzantine parish we've been going to. He keeps talking about how monastic life is the standard by which all Christians ought to live.
Father Thomas Loya, he's got stuff online. Look him up.
He does, yes. Great stuff. Great. If you've been interested by our theology of the body topics, look up Father Thomas Loya. He's great speaker on theology of the body. Sin is the aberration.
Yeah.
Sin is the deviation from
It's the night.
from what's true and good and beautiful. That's so we don't lose anything by throwing off sin. We gain so much more, because we can even get our innocence back that sin stole from us
And yet,
in the garden.
and this song does not go into this, but yet to sin God always brings greater good out of the sin, which is also
Mhm.
mind
Right
blowing.
straight with crooked lines. All
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Like that Avett Brothers song, right? I can't go back and I don't want to because all my mistakes brought me to you. We gotta do that Avett and Other Observations
Oh,
podcast
let's.
at some point.
One at a time. Yes.
All right. Well, closing thoughts, anybody, before we sign off here?
I think this is super fun having 4 people.
This was
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
I like that it's so inclusive. So thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah, it throws me back to my college days.
I know.
Oh
Only more relaxed because less drama.
Less homework.
Less homework.
Yeah.
Less drama.
Tim is so easy on the homework. He he does a bunch of stuff and then he gives it to us and we can or can't. Like we can read it if we want to beforehand. It's all up to us.
Yes.
Bush
My yoke is
Yes.
easy and my burden light. You might say.
Take it on.
Cool.
Great.
Fun
Thanks
meeting.
for tuning in, everybody.
Yes, thank you for putting up with us for the past 45 minutes or so.
Cheers.
It's been great. So, well, until next time, just, normal things. This is the production of The Flight House, buymeacoffee.com/The
Support us.
Flight House. Support us. Elizabeth is one of the
Yeah.
other founders of The Flight House. She also has lots of stuff, elizabethbernadette.com. Everything will be in the description below. I want to be done talking
If you
now.
want to create cool things like this thing, come to us. We have a whole course to teach you how to do it. It's
That's
great.
right. That's right. So, anyway, until next time, we are T.S. Russell, Bridget Gamboni, Elizabeth Bernadette, and Claire Fletcher, reminding you to sigh no more.
Heyo.
I was like, should I say it afterwards? Like an echo.
We can do it again, everybody says it together.
Okay, all right. 3, 2.
Okay. Until next time, we are T.S. Russell, Bridget Gamboni, Elizabeth Bernadette, and Claire Fletcher, reminding you to sigh no more.
You should just keep in both.
Let's do that again. Maybe one more take.
Bloopers.